Srivastav, and I work at the Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations as a junior consultant. So we recently wrote a paper on the Indian app ecosystem. And the Indian app ecosystem is quite a vibrant sector, experiencing a lot of downloads. And essentially, I want to start by defining what an app is. A mobile software application, also known as an app, is a bite-sized program which typically operates on smart devices, tablets or smartphones. Now, India is experiencing, and the world over is experiencing a paradigm shift where phones are no longer just devices for text and voice communication, but they're becoming pocket personal computers. Now, with this shift, apps are becoming increasingly important because these software packages can augment what your phone can do. You have apps which can help you for educational purposes, apps for navigation, apps for social networking. So this is a very vibrant market, so much so that it's called an economy in itself. So the Indian app economy is very vibrant because of a number of factors. And the first one is our increasing penetration of smartphones. At the moment, smartphone penetration is 10%, but its growth rate is phenomenal. In one of the quarters of 2013, we saw a 166% increase in the shipment of smartphones. So that makes India one of the biggest growing smartphone markets in the world. And on average, an Indian smartphone has about 17 mobile software applications. So you can see this opportunity. In terms of downloads, we are in the top 5 regions for app downloads on Google Play Store. So this is a very vibrant sector and has the potential to create many, many jobs. However, there are challenges, and that's what I want to outline briefly. So the first is that we do not have much locally relevant content. So while we are avid consumers of apps, you don't see too many apps that are very localized or that are in localized languages or have Indian scripts. Now, one of the issues for this is that our telecom operators in 2010, when they set up their app stores, the revenue sharing was decided on an ad hoc basis. And often the developer got pretty much only 30% of the total revenue. Now, this was not going to be competitive in an international market where Apple and Google would offer developers 70% of the total revenue. So inevitably, Airtel's App Store, Reliance's Our World, they weren't successful. Our Indian developers, they migrated to international app stores, they started developing international content, and they got much more revenue for doing this. So one of the fallout consequences of this is that our developers are producing much more international content as opposed to highly specific India content that can address some of our local needs. So this is an issue which needs to be addressed. Now, there are signs that the market is realizing. So, Vodafone recently announced that it's going to launch an app store, which perhaps it's in the beta stage, which reverses the revenues. They said that let us now offer 70% to the developers because this is the international norm. So there are signs that the market is realizing. But another innovation is actually an independent app store that has come about called Apps Daily. Now, Apps Daily is an interesting innovation because in our Indian market we have, two main problems. One is mobile payments is difficult, and the RBI has its security regulation, and we do not have the sort of one-touch payments, that are prevalent. At least it's a little bit harder in our app economy. The second thing is that not everyone knows about this. Digital literacy is also a constraint, and not many people know about this. So what Apps Daily did is they established physical outlets where apps can be bought, like how you can just buy a phone, and this is actually quite a huge innovation. Apps Daily has spread across 140 cities in India. It has over 10,000 outlets, and people are actually going physically there and they're saying, hey, this is my phone. Tell me what sort of apps you can give me? And then they pay physically in cash. So you can see this has bypassed the unfavorable M-payment regime, and it's an innovation that is homegrown. It's an Indian innovation and it serves Indian needs. It addresses quite a few of our constraints. So this has been a highly successful business model innovation in the distribution of apps. And it would be good to see more local distribution platforms emerging because this is something that is there in other Asian economies. South Korea has its own distribution platforms, Japan has it, and this has led to a proliferation of local content, which would be good to see in India. Now, regarding the M-payments, the telcos can have a role to play in facilitating the M-payments, provided that they do it in a manner which is also favorable for the developer. Because if they don't keep the developer's interests in mind, the developer will migrate to Android or Apple or any of these international distribution channels. The other thing I want to say is that when we talk about local language content, there are many, this is an ecosystem which we look at. So first of all, we need that network infrastructure and capability to be there. 3G deployment has to, seep into semi-urban and rural areas, because without this, it's a non-starter. Apps fundamentally depend on good internet, good mobile broadband to function well. The second thing is, it's not enough for a mobile developer just to make local language content. This content has to be supported by the handset. So what we will need to see is a collaboration between the original equipment manufacturers, the people who make the devices, and the app developers. The app developers to make the relevant apps, the OEMs to make sure that the local scripts, the index scripts can be read by particular devices. So this collaboration has to be there. And I would say that our ecosystem is quite a vibrant ecosystem. Just to give you some figures, we have 100 million app downloads per month. That is a phenomenal figure. And people are looking towards the Indian market. But I think that what we need to do is to ensure that certain preconditions are in place. And by that I mean, mobile payments, network infrastructure, these are issues which we can examine. And I think if we have some of these things in place, we should be able to see our application market taking off even more than it already has. So just to give some examples of what sort of local apps we can have, there's a lot of opportunity in mHealth area. And to expand into this, we don't just need app developers with technical capabilities. We will need collaboration with doctors, with the government, to ensure that this sort of app can take off. It's not simply about the coding. It's called an ecosystem app. It depends on a whole host of other stakeholders to come together. Similarly, a big opportunity in India is education. So India has, as we're aware, India is a country which has service deficits. Our infrastructure in terms of transportation and banking infrastructure is lacking. And mobiles are one technology that are penetrated. Our teledensity is 73% and our smartphone penetration is also rising. So we can exploit this. Now this is not to say that mobile phones will replace roads. No, that shouldn't happen. But they will simply be a complement to the existing infrastructure, and they can help ameliorate some of our service delivery problems. So education is another area, and e-governance particularly, given our ambition to deliver services, e-governance services, and for businesses it can be a big opportunity, because this is the era of hypermobility. Businesses want to keep a stock of their inventories, which may be located in different cities. They may want to keep a tab on what different employees are doing, and apps which are designed for businesses to store business-related information would be highly useful. So this is an emerging segment that's coming up. Enterprise apps is a big sort of opportunity in India, and we're seeing a lot of interesting projects and young innovators coming into the enterprise app segment. A particular issue that we have is that while we're in the top 5 download regions for Google, we're not even in the top 10 revenue regions. And this is because we have a highly price sensitive market. Our credit debit card penetration combined is only 11%. And there's a general trust deficit. We don't trust mobile payments, and this is because of their high failure rate as well. So given this, we need to be slightly more innovative when it comes to monetizing apps. Often just asking for an upfront price, saying that my app costs 55 rupees, will you pay for it? That doesn't work. In-app purchases or the freemium model, these work much better in developing countries. So for example, you can access one part of the app for free, but to get extra services, then you pay. And this works really well because you get the customer's trust. You show them a couple of your services, and then you say that if you're interested in more, then you can pay. So this is similar to, let's say, LinkedIn. You have the LinkedIn free version, and then you can pay for premium services. So this works quite well. And also, given the constraint of piracy, if, let's say, you charge for a particular app, that app can easily be pirated by someone else and offered for free. So developing that trust through the in-app model or through the freemium model is essential. And this sort of innovation is happening across developing app economies. Now, I also want to touch on the type of app developers there are. You have freelance developers, you have multinational companies who are, like or you have Book My Show, or many multinationals and big companies who are making apps. And you also have some OEMs like Samsung has its app store, and many people can make apps for that. So you see many players involved in different cycles of the app economy. Now, in terms of who performs best, I think this is a matter of competition. Whoever makes the best quality apps simply wins in this market. We can see that in the app developer level, there's a lot of competition. On the distribution side, you see that Apple and Android do a lot of the distribution. In India, Android is big, so Google Play is one of our major distributors. Again, we can see many local distributors coming up because, as I said, with our emerging middle class, you will see a lot of first-time smartphone users. And this is a big opportunity for any market player who wants to enter. You have these people who have never been on smartphones before, and you can offer them new services. So it's quite a fertile market for new market entrants. And in terms of some of the threats, some of the things that we might have to be careful of is that since our landscape is largely dominated by Android, so I think it's between 60 to 70% is Android. Now the issue is that 1 in every 3 Android apps, which is not downloaded from Google Play, has been claimed that it has malicious software. And this is a big issue because such malware which does Bitcoin mining or Heartbleed, some of these viruses which are on Android, it's a very new phenomenon. It's a threat, and it has to be dealt with because a lot of sensitive information is stored on mobile phones. And especially if M-banking takes off, we cannot afford to have any of these viruses on our mobile devices. So this is something that I think the market is slowly realizing it's a threat. It's coming about in a big way, and testing requirements will have to be strengthened. We need to really focus on having robust, very, very robust testing to ensure that malware is not on our applications. And I think the market will realize this because some other certain segments like M-banking will not take off unless people trust that their devices are safe. So this is something that India will have to be particularly careful about because ours is an Android dominated market. And these sort of concerns are not so much there in Apple, which has a much more closed ecosystem. So, but I think that these are challenges that we can definitely address. And again, I'm very optimistic because each of these challenges also presents an opportunity for innovators to come in and develop not only technical solutions, but business model innovation solutions. And we have seen a lot of that coming about in India. The challenge is to make sure our ecosystem is conducive. If our ecosystem is conducive for our young entrepreneurs, if it's conducive in terms of our network infrastructure, in terms of mobile payments, then the market's ready to take off on its own. I think we wouldn't need to see any kind of intervention. This is a very vibrant sector that has the full potential to take off on its own. It just needs a very good ecosystem, and we need to make sure that's in place.